Okay, I'm going to take a few short clips of a little project I'm going to try based on an observation from last night. So I'm starting with a blank canvas, and I know I could probably do screen grabs and all that, but I'm just going to take little bits here and there. I'm going to load a generic leaf, and then in a minute I'm going to convert that, because right now it's a JPEG, into a vector file. Go in, take some paths, alter the shape slightly, and I'll come back once that's done. Okay, I've traced the bitmap and converted it over to path files, and you can see all the little nodes here. Of course I'm looking through the phone, but you can see the nodes. So when I try to cut, if I cut this, basically all I'm going to wind up with is that shape there. So there's no point in having this peak here. So I can move that around, change it however I want, but most likely I'm just going to eliminate that peak and try to simplify the shape, because it's just going to be a small shirt button when it's done. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning that up right now. Okay, I'm happy with the leaf, and I've just put a circle around it because I'm going to not stab anybody with a button. And now I'm working out the text. So playing here in the text editor and looking at different responses for how that will look. And once I find something that I like, I will come back. Okay, I'm actually happy with the script, but now we have a problem. The laser is not going to like the fact that that's text. So we're going to come up here and... No, I'm not putting it on a path. We're going to convert them to paths. So now these are individual paths. But the other thing we're going to do is ungroup them, and then we're going to convert them to one item. So by giving them a union, now they get treated as one thing. So every time I highlight that, that's one thing now. So if I do any changes to this one path, it will affect the whole thing, which is going to be good for the laser, because once it's in the SVG file, I now have three objects. This object I will cut, this object I will etch at some depth, and this object I will etch at another depth. By breaking them up into three objects in the vector file, I get a little more control in the Glowforge software. So let's see how this goes. Okay, we just imported that SVG into the editor for the Glowforge, which is here. I took a scrap piece of maple and taped her down, because sometimes the fan is a little intense in there. And I'm going to resize this to cut a 2-inch button. I'll be right back. Okay, and we now have it sized and placed for a 2-inch button. The interface is still pretty simple yet for Glowforge. You know, you can move it around, or you can manipulate your object. You know, you can copy and paste and make a whole array. And then what we're going to do is take a look at some of our options here. I happen to know on this wood that SD graphic is going to look perfect. That will etch perfectly as well. And then this is our cut. We're using some maple hardwood. This really shouldn't take long. So you hit print. It's going to come over here, shoot a laser at the material, well, an IR actually, and check the depth, make sure everything's kosher. And I will come back as soon as I've pushed the magic button to print, because it takes just a minute or two for it to set this up and figure out how it's going to raster it and how it's going to cut it. Actually, it sounds like it's almost done. And it has come back and said it will take 6 minutes 13 seconds to cut that. So we will push the magic button, and I'm not going to make you watch all 6 minutes, but you can see for the etching, it's going to start with rastering some of the designs back and forth and just lightly burning that in. So it's starting with the text, because that was the first one we had in our column. So in the software, this is the order of operations, and I have found cut last. Always cut last. Things may move with the fan if you cut small things and then try to etch them. They will not be where you think they are. So I'll come back in a few minutes and we will see what this looks like. And while it's cutting, a feature I do like on the Glowforge is the screen shows you everywhere that is being cut. So you can see that matches with everything that's already being cut in the wood. And it's kind of nice to be able to see your scan progress in the software. Okay, and it's almost finished. You can see the progress shows that we're just finishing the etching at the top of the leaf. You can see why we took away some of those super sharp points, just to make the image look a little simpler without it being a caricature. So as that closes in, the most interesting part is how quickly it'll cut. Because you'll notice for etching, yeah, you're basically just rastering back and forth just like an inkjet printer. But for cutting, it's more of a CNC XY table type thing. And here I can show the whole bed as it's working. And this thing has really been a fascinating toy. I'm pretty happy with the Glowforge so far. The software keeps getting better. The camera seems to be getting more accurate. The cuts are located more correctly. And there's the best part. Is how beautifully and quickly it can cut. The precision is amazing. So, as I've shown in the past, I usually like to grab a piece of tape to pull them, but since this is just a little bitty one, I'm just gonna, and it's just out of some scrap, we'll just pull the whole thing up, get the scrap out of the way, and now we have our blank. Now it still has tape on it, so these burn marks will go away as soon as I peel the tape. So let me go ahead and get that done. And that's how it looks after I've peeled the tape. Now I'll take it upstairs and glue a pin to the back so that it can be attached to a shirt. Okay, and we'll give that about 10 minutes to set, and the button will be done. Okay, and then that was just a fun little project in Inkscape based on something somebody asked to have. And I've only been using Inkscape for a couple days. I find it pretty powerful for what I want it to do, working with the laser, since Visio definitely is not useful for that. You can see we glued a pin on the back. There's the finished button. Didn't cost anything in materials, didn't cost much in time, and it was a nice, interesting little project. Pretty straightforward, you know, assuming you have something you can do with it. I think spending a little time learning Inkscape might not be a bad call. But you can see the software for the Glowforge cooperates beautifully with these vector files, and I don't save them as plain. I've been saving them as Inkscape vector files, and it doesn't seem to be a big problem at all. So that's this little project. We'll try to film something else. Who knows what the next thing is? We'll find out.